And this is only the halfway mark. On December 14th, the west side of Kyle Field will be imploded.
News 3 Clay Falls joins us live from Hearn. And Clay, we've heard that Texas Rangers have been called in for this investigation.
Yes, John and Meredith, the Texas Rangers as well as Robertson County District Attorney are investigating after a 93-year-old woman was shot and killed by a police officer who was responding to her home. Multiple people on scene have told us that she was shot potentially at least 5 times. We're told the football team should be here around 10:30, and these fans are ready to see them. Take a look at this and hear this. Joining me now are 2 former students, Chelsea and Jenny. They're going to pop a marriage proposal tonight to some of the players, including, I'm assuming, Johnny Football. Exactly. Tell me about the sign. We just were able to get closer in. We're on Fidelity Street right now, and if you can see behind me, it's still a very active crime scene. Right now, over my shoulder, we see a number of state troopers and detectives and police combing through several of the yards, apparently looking for evidence. Well, John and Meredith, as you said, I did grow up in the area, so the story hits close to home for me. Unfortunately, my family was okay and not impacted by the tornado, but a lot of people were not so fortunate. From voter registration to handicap placards, there's also a drive-through for added convenience. And this is something you've probably never seen before. You can even pick up your license plates to go. How about that? Here at the end of our first round of practice, I just checked the temperature on the grass where it's 96 degrees. The Texas A&M System Office of Federal Relations has been here in Washington for nearly 4 years, making sure Aggies are represented in the nation's capital. Parking in the wrong place and getting towed is enough to make just about anyone upset. It can be expensive and time-consuming. But what are your rights if you think you've been towed illegally? An investigation we started more than 2 years ago shows one company isn't playing by the rules. Our towing tale begins here in the big parking lot off College Avenue and University Drive near McDonald's. Day after day, you see this, cars being towed. Rick and Marley Young almost had an unhappy meal earlier this month, so they called us.
When we came out, we were talking, and all of a sudden Rick says, "Why is the truck in the air?"
They thought it was okay to park here, and we're not the only ones.
During that conversation, we ended up with 3 wreckers pulled around us. So they actually had a team of them out there, was going to pull everybody out quickly and be gone.
This woman didn't want to speak on camera, but her car was towed from the same lot. She told us she got it back after paying $200 and, like others, thought it was okay to park there. Turns out, it is. We asked the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, which regulates the towing industry, to look into it.
It doesn't say specifically who may park in the parking facility. If it is for an apartment complex, it needs to say tenant parking or tenant and visitor parking.
Todd Forrester with TDLR showed us what a correct sign should look like. The biggest difference is a legal sign like this one is specific about who can park there. These old and faded signs in the same shopping center also don't provide legal notification, something we first reported on in September 2013.
Not a sign that means anything for our agency.
The company, A1 Towing and Recovery, was also using a spotter to notify them when someone leaves the lot. Todd Forrester says that's perfectly legal.
They are allowed to enforce the parking facility rules.
Something you might not know, state law requires tow truck companies to release your car for free if you walk up and they're in the process of securing your car and it's not ready for transport. Since the Young's car was ready to go, it would have been a $75 drop fee, but the tow truck driver released it for free after Rick spoke with the Stack Apartments manager. After our meeting with state regulators, we had some questions for the spotter we've seen out there day after day and weeks before. Morning, guys. We're with KBTX. We'd like to talk to y'all about the towing going on in this parking lot.
Get away from me, get away from me, get away from me, get away from me.
Can you talk to us, please?
Nope.
We then went to A1's headquarters.
These are the signs that we have.
The manager didn't want his face on camera, but he did show us some of the signs and claims TDLR told him they are legal. So we told him about what officials from Austin told us. He added they are only towing people who they catch on camera leaving the shopping center to go to campus, but that's not what happened in Rick and Marla's case, and they just want the signs to be clear.
But without signage there at all, I really do feel like they're preying on everybody.
We also reached out to the owner of the Stack, who told us they want the signs to be legal. He added they are not receiving any money for the cars A1 tows. Local attorney John Quinn says it's a balancing act for businesses.
They aggressively enforce the parking situation. I understand the need to do that, but there seems to be some common sense.
After his towing headache, Rick Young offered this advice.
Until they get signage up, it's open season.
Now it's up to A1 or the Stack to make sure the signs are up to state standards. Both parties are on the hook if a tow is found to have taken place illegally. Something else interesting is even after we showed the signs to TDLR, they say they can only open up a case once a complaint is filed. In the News Center, Clay Falls, News 3. They are images still beyond belief the first time you see the devastation here in Moore, Oklahoma. An EF5 tornado with winds upwards of 210 miles an hour devastated the Oklahoma City suburb May 20th, killing 25 and injuring 377 people. But help continues to come. On Saturday, 12 young adults from First United Methodist Church in Bryan spent the day helping their friends in the Sooner State. Mariah Johnson of Bryan grew up in Oklahoma and organized the trip.
We all prayed about it and knew that this was something that we really wanted to do, was to come up here.
Here in Moore, the damage could end up costing over $2 billion. Nearly 3 months after the tornado, debris litters entire neighborhoods like this one. FEMA's deadline for picking up all this trash is this week. Douglas Burdett lives across the street from where the Texas team was working.
This window got hit with something right here and just literally exploded into the house.
His daughter, who is a substitute teacher, and granddaughter survived the destruction at Briarwood Elementary, a short distance away, he says, because of prayers.
There was a lot of injuries at school, but they all survived it. It was just a total miracle.
Meanwhile, church members like young adult minister John Wayne McMahon worked at 2 sites, leaving only slabs as signs. Homes once stood here.
You see an event like this and you can't help take notice and be moved by it.
The reminders remain as the city even tested the tornado sirens during our time here.
We're going to stay right here, keep on going, rebuild, and see new neighbors come in.
Hope on the horizon with hands here to help. In Moore, Oklahoma, Clay Falls, News 3. Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary is sharing the gospel inside the Darrington Prison Unit, where some of Texas's most violent offenders are locked up. Through lectures, scripture, and study, inmates are growing closer to God and changing the culture of a very tough place to serve time. The first thing you notice as you approach the Darrington unit is the fortress of fences and guard towers. The red bricks and even a steeple tower over the coastal plains near Sharon. Once inside, a few short steps take you to a part of prison you'd least expect, a seminary of students.
I feel led to the ministries such as hospice and death row inmates.
Rocky Valdez was arrested in Bryan in 2004 for a murder that happened in Houston. While he's serving 50 years, he says he's also trying to serve the Lord.
God has created us for a purpose of having a relationship with Him and others, and it's through these things that we rightly relate to one another.
During the summer break, the seminarians catch up on books, write research papers, learn languages like Hebrew, and even practice drawing portraits. Inmate James Grissett is serving life for aggravated robberies and learned how to paint in prison.
It's Johnny Cash and Billy Graham. I'm donating this, and they'll auction it, and the funds will go to help support this program here. I first got here, I lost a couple of library books, so I feel like maybe I can help pay back for that.
He's been doing time since the early 1970s.
After a lifetime of, crime, anger, hatred, living in this environment, it finally got to me, and I went to the Lord in prayer for the first time in over 40 years.
We are seeing men transformed in a way that is nothing short of miraculous.
Dr. Ben Phillips with Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary's Houston campus is the director of the prison seminary. More than 150 inmates are working to earn a Bachelor of Science in Biblical Studies in 4 years.
We're looking for guys who can take what they learn and be salt and light inside the prison, so that the prison culture itself begins to change.
In May, the prison made headlines when the first 33 inmates graduated from the seminary. Darrington Prison Warden Mark Jones says he's proud of the work happening in the facility of more than 1,900 inmates.
Everybody deserves a second chance, the way I look at it, but these guys have really worked hard, and we appreciate what they've done since they've been here.
This free education comes at no cost to taxpayers, but is taken care of by the Heart of Texas Foundation. And while most of the inmates do call themselves Christians, you don't have to be one to be part of the program.
All of those guys are welcome to come and to participate, to study, to earn the degree. and then to serve in the prison system as their conscience dictates.
Al Thompson is 4 years into a 40-year sentence for robbing a bank.
What Southwestern and the seminary is doing is actually working from the inside by changing the hearts of men.
Preston Byerly started the seminary program in January. He's serving 40 years for convenience store robbery.
A lot of changes, they said, have already been made on here long before I got here, because it was one of the roughest units, and now it's one of the better ones. So it's making a lot of progress and waves in the prison system.
Darrington Seminary students will resume fall classes next month. 40 inmates are expected to graduate next May. While this program is new to the Texas prison system, it's based off the Louisiana State Penitentiary in Angola, where their seminary started more than 20 years ago. Clay Falls, News 3.